Anvita and Sonam, I am absolutely delighted to be speaking with two of Indian cinema's promising directors and who had a very successful 2020 for the Directors Dual Chat today. So, firstly, a warm welcome to you both.
It's lovely to be here, Anuj.
Masaba Masaba and Bulbbul were two very loved projects, actually, and I think you both share the common ground of Netflix as well, which is quite special. How has it been like to sort of soak in the sort of warm reception that you've had from the series and the film?
I have to say that it's been, I feel like all my years of work kind of now I'm feeling like almost it paid off this year because I feel like I kept doing a lot of things and I would have to always tell people, please watch my film, please watch my series, watch my short film. Just I had to keep begging people to at least see what I've done. And that was only a task, like to get people to see something.
Hmm.
And with Masaba, I didn't send the trailer to anybody. I didn't ask anybody to watch it. And everybody saw it. Like, I feel like everybody from like the industry to like every person that's ever come in touch with me in my whole life has reached out to me and said, we watched it, we loved it. So I felt so good and so satisfied that at least people saw my work. That was my first thing. Then you like it, you don't like it, whatever, that's separate. But at least I can now kind of walk into a place and be like, I directed this, and they know what I'm talking about. And I don't have to define, that movie or that thing with that thing,
Yeah.
which has been the case for the past 7, 8 years that I've been directing. So for me, it was the satisfaction of having people just see my work, and that I've gotten from it. So I'm very, very happy.
Right. And Anvita, how about you on the success of Bulbbul?
It's been amazing because, 2020 has been like a mixed bag for everybody. Such terrible things have happened and all of that. But my first film, Sonam knows this, I was going to call you by your nickname. Sonam knows this. I wrote Bulbul years ago. In fact, she read it years ago. And we've been trying to make it, trying to launch it, and it has been very hard. And Netflix came along, and in a heartbeat, they said yes. And they were just such amazing partners. For me, this year has been very special in that sense. I made my film, it released with so much ease. Netflix was great to partner with, and with Clean Slate, it was just perfect. I just had such a lovely time. Lots of people said that it should have been a theatrical and all of that, but honestly, I think the experience of working with OTT was so good that if you were to ask me, I would choose it again and again as a medium. Not that there's anything wrong with
Yeah.
theatrical, that's wonderful and it has its own place, but just the joy and the joy of working with them, and not second guessing and not having, like Sonam said, having to work hard at trying to promote your baby, and you don't have to do all of that. They just do it for you, and they do it so brilliantly that you can just literally sit back and let someone else take over, and you're not worried about how it's going to be handled. Even in the making of it, you have so much creative freedom. They only support you. They're truly like they're I felt it was like Team Bulbul. You have, Clean Slate, of course, because they believe in it all, but they were exactly the same. They were as committed to the film as, say, I was, as excited about it as I was. And that for a first time director, it's so empowering.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been great. It's been wonderful.
Absolutely, and I'm really glad you mentioned that whole aspect about it should have been released theatrically and all of that. But when a certain film or certain content is going to be aired on a particular platform, does that ever influence or impact a director's vision or a filmmaker's vision at all, Anvita?
Uh, I can only speak for myself. I would say no, because we are only trying to serve the story. We're not going to say, okay, the screen size is going to be this much, therefore I'll take my shot differently. No, if whatever the aesthetics of the film are, whatever the aesthetics of the of your filmmaking is, you are going to follow that. You're not going to think small because the size of the screen is small. You're going to only think what will do justice to your film or to your story. So you're not going to compromise just because, oh, it's a small screen. So no, it doesn't at all impact your storytelling. You will just do the best that you can, regardless of the medium. Why would I not think of taking beautiful scale shots, or spending time on the cinematography or the production design or costume? I will not compromise on that at all just because it's OTT. Not at all. It We serve the story.
Indeed.
It's not, we don't serve the size of the screen.
Indeed. What about you, Sonam?
For me, it's just positives. There's just more freedom. You don't have to think about anything other than what you're trying to make. You don't have to think about like the future, who will watch it, whether people will be motivated enough to go to the theater or whatever. Like, so all your creative decisions are just for what you're making, and just based on what you want to, the creative choices you want to make, and not what the audience might like, or this person, if you cast, will get this much opening or whatever. So for me, it's only positive. There's like just more creativity and less pressure and less kind of like stress.
Yeah, you're not second guessing, and therefore doing a disservice to your content. You're not
Right.
like, this will work, this will not work. You will just serve the story, like I said. So yeah, she's absolutely right. Takes away the fear. It makes you brave to work on a medium like this.
Right. When filmmakers are given the green light by producers, I mean, what sort of thoughts go into a director's mind at that point? I mean, is there ever like this sort of pressure on your head to kind of make sure that it really is, the content quality is really top notch? I mean, what sort of goes through your mind?
I mean, for me, it's like when I first write it, or if I get a script and I look at it, whatever my initial idea was or the images that came to my head, I'm trying to get to that. I'm trying to just get everything to come together so that that is what the audience also ultimately sees or experiences.
Yeah.
But even if it's just a feeling that I got the first time I thought of the idea, or I was writing it, or if I read someone else's script and I just that thing. Now then everything else for me is to recreate that initial first moment, because the audience, when they watch it, it's going to be again their first time experiencing it. So that's my main thing, and then I just kind of try to stick to it, and I don't let many things waver me from that baseline.
Right. Yeah. What about you, Anvita?
So I think for me, because I've taken my time getting here, taken my time deciding to become a director, because I've been a writer for most of my life. The sheer joy of it. So I did not take any pressure, and I think somewhere the credit also goes to my producers, to Karnesh and Anushka. They never let me feel, or even for a moment feel that, oh, it's my first film, or oh, it's a big deal. Nothing like that. Everybody was very matter of fact about it. Everybody was excited about it. So I could actually enjoy the process. I never, and like I said, working with Netflix again, because you're not second guessing. You're just working on the story. You're just trying to make it the best version of itself. So I actually had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun making this film, whether it was the prep or shooting it, or just spending months with my DOP, my production designer, my costume designer, whether it was working with Tripti, just sitting and working on her character. Whether everything for me, actually, in the last 2 years, Anuj, has been for the first time that's like being a child. How can it not be joyful?
Yeah.
I think the only time, and I won't say it's pressure, but when the film released, all that I wished for it to do was that it should be well received, because everybody who said yes to me, and by that I mean my producers, my HODs, and my actors, and Netflix, Netflix, everybody who believed in me, I want that faith to be justified.
Right.
I want them to be rewarded for that faith. I think that was the only thing that I wanted when the film dropped on Netflix. That's all that I wished for. That they all feel, oh, we did the right thing. We said yes to her, we did the right thing. I think that was the only thing. But in the making of it or it getting green light, um, maybe again it's being naive. I wasn't pressured by it. The pressures, actually, you spend more, there's more pressure when you're writing,
Yeah.
when you're trying to make it the best possible script that you can write in that moment. That is the pressure, the pressure of a writer. But in the making
Mm.
of the film, no, the rest of the stuff is hygiene. I mean, the kind of pressure that is there, that you have to make the day, that things will go wrong, an unprecedented storm will hit you when you're shooting outdoors. Those are things that are par for the course. And that's not really stress. Even in that, have you seen this film called Chupke Chupke by Rishikesh Mukherjee?
I have, yes. It's a beautiful film.
It's a fabulous film. There's a scene in that film at the beginning of the film where when Pyare Mohan, that's Dharmender's character, comes as a chauffeur
Yeah.
to Prakash's house. The car is not working. So James, the other driver, says, differential mein lafda hai, gaadi nahi chalega. So धर्मेंद्र says, डिक्की तो ठीक है ना, हम गाड़ी डिक्की से चलाएंगे. So actually that's all that a director does, because
Right.
things are thrown at you and you say, डिक्की तो ठीक है ना, हम गाड़ी डिक्की से चलाएंगे. So that kind of pressure is not really pressure. That's all fun.
Wow.
It's part of the game.
That's a very interesting analogy, actually, for that as well. I think also the fact that you both actually share a very common ground as well, because you both have worked together on Sonam's film Gippy, which was produced by Dharma Productions as well. I believe, Anvita, you did the lyrics for that film, and I think you both have quite a vast experience in sort of writing. So, how difficult is it to kind of translate a solid piece of writing into a compelling piece of cinema?
So this is something I've kind of learned on the job. Earlier in my head, I thought if I do a good job writing it, then I just kind of have to film it and it'll be fine, like it'll translate.
Mm.
And now as I've worked more and more, I've realized that, okay, no, there's like, I have to do other things, because what might be there on script might not as effectively translate to people. And there are so many tools that you can use. Before Masaba Masaba, I directed a series called Kafir,
Yes.
which was completely different from anything I've done before. And it was maybe the first thing that I had not written at all. It was written by Bhavani Iyer and based on a true story, and very dark, political, just absolutely different from what anybody would ever see me do. But I immediately understood that, oh, this is great. Like, I connected to it as well as I connect to anything else. It wasn't out of my range, but what others might perceive. So when I got that, and I've not written it, and I have to do something very different from what I'm being used to doing, I actually really had to think about only craft and only the directing part of it and not the writing. And that's when I realized, oh my God, so much, because every scene, because when you write it, I just do it how I wrote it. I directed how I wrote it. But when she gave me the scripts, it was how she wrote it, and I saw it how I saw it. And then and I realized each scene could be so many different ways, could be filmed like this. The locations could be totally different from what is written there. So I started playing with the material,
Right.
and that was so much fun. And then I started thinking, okay, maybe I should not write every script, everything that I direct, because maybe that's when the tools that only a director has, but not a writer director, can be used. So now I try to pay a lot of attention to. I kind of try to think of the script as someone else has written it, and then I have to kind of, it's like fresh, and I have to like work with these words. What are these words on the script? I try to do it because it's a whole different ball game, and I didn't realize it till I did Kafir, actually.
for me, the journey was more to do with moving from being a commissioned writer, writer for hire, to someone who's now going to tell her own story. So I think that was the leap that I had to take, because I was in advertising for 15 years, where you work for a brand, where the market realities tell you how you have to write that ad. And so always I was serving someone else's brief, And the same thing happened when you become a commission writer. It's a lot more fun writing for films, but whether you're a lyricist or a writer, it's someone else's vision. It's someone else is going to make it, is going to think it and create it. You're just putting it on paper. So I was just doing that. But when I wrote Bulbbul actually, the writing of Bulbbul is what made me a director. I had no intention of being a director till I wrote Bulbbul.
Right.
I wrote it and I knew that I have to tell this story. I cannot give this to anyone. Now, the thing is, the way I wrote Bulbbul and the way I saw it in my head, I think it's something like how a writer and a lyricist is. There is another skill set that kicks in. It comes from the same place. For me, the place was the page and my mind. I imagined it. So it might not, when you read the script, you will get a sense of the film that you see. But in my head, I was seeing this. I was seeing the camera moving a certain way. I was seeing the red moonlight. I was seeing the Jatayu Vadham painting. Every detail was not put in the script, though my script writing, as Sonam's read my script, she knows it's detailed to the point of being almost a short breakdown. Because I'm seeing it and trying to capture it on paper. This is, I'm talking about only when I'm writing for myself, not when I write for other directors. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find the words to make you see what I'm seeing in my head. And I think that's where the director comes in, that I will then take that story, that page, and actually execute it exactly how my mind imagines it, and so I think she put we're kind of saying the same thing, but she had an interesting take, that where she wore that director's hat when she could distance herself from that material. I think I distanced myself from a certain way of writing and for way of storytelling,
Right.
instead of the material per se. In my head, the switch became very organic, that I had to show it a certain way, so it wasn't really like the written word, now I have to take it somewhere else. I just had to take myself from one mindset to another. It wasn't really the script. I had to become someone else.
That is incredible. Like this omnipresent storyteller, so to speak, I think you had to kind of become, right?
I just had to become me instead of what other people wanted me to be.
Lovely. That's a really great way of kind of having that approach as well. Was that a reason why perhaps you chose someone like Avinash and Tripti for the main roles, is because the fact that they sort of were able to relate to your vision as well as a filmmaker?
So Avinash and Tripti, I in fact had not seen Laila Majnu, and I did not even know that they were paired together in Laila Majnu. So I actually auditioned them. My casting company called Casting Bay, they showed me so many auditions, especially for Bulbbul, obviously because she's my protagonist, and she had to be, for me, all my characters had to be cast just right, the way I was seeing them in my head. And it was a long casting process. So it's actually the auditions that got them, the first round of audition, which caught my attention. And then I did one round personally with them. And all I was doing was looking for Bulbbul or looking for Satya, or, in Rahul's case, it was just sheer luck, because Anshay, my friend Anshay Lal, and who is also the creative producer of the film, he came up with this idea of, why don't you get Rahul? And I was like, I don't know if he'll even do it, because on paper, Indraneel and Mahendra's role is the smallest. If you read the script, and by then I've been primed with so many of my friends who have become directors, and they're like, actors only look at their pages, and and it's true as well to a certain extent. But we sent the script to Rahul in the evening at about 7:38 in the evening. At 10:30, he called me, and he loved the script, and he spoke about the script and the story and the pain of it and the beauty of it. He did not talk about himself or the role. And then the next thing he asked me was, "Are you sure I can pull this off?"
Wow.
And in that moment, I was like, this is the man I want for this film, because his level of surrender was as much as Tripti's, who was the junior most, so to speak, the most inexperienced actor on my set. You know, she was the newest actor on
Mm.
my set, and there was Rahul, who was 27 years in the film industry, to his credit, and they both surrendered like to zero to me, not to me, to the film.
Mm.
And they just, I think that surrender is what made it work, what made it special.
Wow, that
So
is incredible. I think just hearing a lot about the process of the way you chose the actors and the way it all happened just makes it sound so magical, even though it wasn't exactly a magical sort of, the concept wasn't about magic itself. It was quite a serious and intense film, but very well
but
done.
Anuj, I'm sure Sonam will vouch for this. Every time any project that you work on, it seems like magic. It is serendipity, because you can be
Serendipity is
beating
immense.
your head against a wall trying to get something done, and when it happens like this, and the right people come along, sometimes to teach you that, okay, this is not the way to do it, but sometimes to say that when it's right, everything falls into place and it happens so painlessly.
Mm.
That it happens every time with every project that you work on. This magic, the word that you mentioned, it always happens.
Wow. I think Sonam as well. I've been really fascinated with the way you've always chosen to kind of make films and content. I mean, besides obviously Kafir, like Gippy, for example. It's a story about an underdog. It's a coming of age film. It's a very feel good factor film, and I think Masaba Masaba also has a similar sort of feeling as well. But I think this time what perhaps was very different and very unique is the fact that you kind of get real life people and fuse them in a very fictionalized setting. So how challenging was that for you? I mean, what was your main focus as a director at that point to kind of fuse these two very interesting aspects together?
I actually realized while I was writing this that this is my grammar anyway. That I prefer, or at least that's how I work, or the films I grew up with, it almost felt like people were just living their lives and we were looking at them living their lives.
Yeah.
That's feeling that I used to get, or the movies that I really loved were those movies like Chupke Chupke, or a lot of like Rajni Gandha or Choti Si Baat, these very
Yeah.
everyday films where people are just, like everything looks not designed. The dialogues are just like batein ho rahi hai, whatever. So I love those movies, and so I anyway write like that. I don't like any manipulation or any, like if you can tell that this was put here for this effect or whatever, it really bothers me. Sometimes you
Mhm.
have to do it, but it like really bothers me because it feels like you can see that it's written or you can see that it was directed. I don't like that
Right.
anyway. I like that I'm invisible. You should just not know only that it was written or directed. You should really feel like some people are just living their lives.
Right.
So this genre comes very naturally to me, and
Mm.
uh, it wasn't like a stretch at all for me. When we were writing it, it was a little bit new because it was, for once, it was like people who exist,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to kind of, like people have so many shades. Like it was the narrowing down of what can be in the series that was challenging. Like,
Mm.
what do you do? Yeah, there's Masaba and Ninaji, but what part of them do you show? So that was a little bit like just to pinpoint what needs to be shown. But that early on, actually my first meeting with Netflix, they asked me like, okay, there's a show now about Masaba and Ninaji, but like what will you do with a show like this?
Right.
So I that time only said that I want to just make a show about women who keep falling and who keep getting up. That is it. So we will just, and it's, I know it's supposed to be comedy, light-hearted, whatever, but I will just show them keeping on stumbling and getting up. That's it. So then I chose those moments of their lives or those kind of situations and that part of their characters and enhance that. Other than that, it was like, for me, it was the same as I do in anything. I mean, even in Kafir, it was based on a real life story. So I didn't want it to be like, kuch humne zabardasti, there's dialogue and drama and music or whatever. I was like, this woman went through this really.
Yeah.
So I cannot now make it look fake or filmy in any way. So I tried to say same thing. I'm invisible. People are living their lives. So it was easy.
And I think you did it brilliant, because you almost gave a sense of scripted, unscripted in Masaba Masaba, though it's a fiction show.
Yes.
And done so, like you said, you're invisible. There's such a light hand. It just, you were right what you said at the beginning, that everything that you have done kind of culminated here in terms of whether it's your skill or your understanding of who you are as a director and as a woman. And then to tell this story like this with such a light hand, and it seems authentic. I thought it was fabulous.
Thank you. Yeah.
I absolutely enjoyed it too as well. And I think I was gonna actually come to that. And I'm really glad you mentioned this, Sonam, as well, because as it is, Masaba Gupta's life is quite fascinating to know about. I mean, she's still quite a mystery to a lot of us, even though she's obviously done a lot of interviews and there's a lot of content on the internet available about her life. But the fact that we're seeing her in like a fictionalized setting rather than perhaps a documentary or like a Fabulous Lives style of a series. So obviously it was quite a conscious decision on your part, right, to kind of steer away from making it into a reality show format or a documentary, right?
Yeah, I mean, it started off with the idea that our producer had, Ashwini RD. She had this idea, let's make a show about Masaba and Neenaji, and they're playing themselves. And then it was kind of like everything was very kind of decided and thought out, because it could go anywhere. And I understood that it could go anywhere and it could be a Kardashians kind of space. We knew it had to be scripted-ish. But it could go anywhere. So in my head, I don't watch those shows. What I do like watching is a Curb Your Enthusiasm, or or Master of None, or Rami now. So I wanted it to be like that. Like, okay, you've given me a character that's already made, but now they are my characters. Now I'm not going to talk about their exact lives or whatever, because that is anyway there too much nowadays of celebrities, their social life or whatever. So I wanted to just show what is not shown, but not in a like, oh, let's find out what's happening in their lives. I was like, these are two awesome women. Let's show two really cool, independent, working women on screen. But I mean, now the celebrity part of their life, I didn't want to really tap in on. That's enough. Anyway, everybody's like talking each other up and like, you're amazing, you're amazing. I was like, these are two women, they work hard. That's it. They work in these industries, but that's what it is.
Yeah, no, fair enough as well. But I think even though I think last year proved that content is king, remakes and remixes are still, popular and very profitable ventures, which I think has become a shorthand to success as well. I mean, how do you think this whole herd mentality for gaining quick money can change? I mean, do you think there is a creative crisis necessarily?
Long time ago, I think when I was in college, I read about this experiment that psychologists did, which is that, have you realized when people enter a lift, they all face the same way and they stand? So they did an experiment where one of the psychologists got into the lift and did not stand facing the door. And it made everybody uncomfortable. And after a point, people started turning their bodies. What you talked about, herd mentality. We do it. The animalistic nature makes us feel safe, that if someone else is doing it, it must be right. And we can follow in their footsteps. We'll be safe. We'll be safe if we do it. So it's an instinct. And on one hand, there's nothing wrong with it, because as all instincts go, it's like fight or flight or anything like that. Herd mentality is a basic instinct that all living things have, other than, I think, plants. So we can't blame people for being like that. And sometimes maybe it is safe, when something succeeds, uh, it makes you feel safe to try to repeat that success. It might not be true for everyone. Like, I know it's not true for us, and it's not true for my producers.
Mm.
um, but having said that, if it works for them, it's fine. Everyone to their own. I'm not going to talking about a creative crisis. There's a creative crisis in every writer's mind every time he or she sits in front of a blank page.
Right.
That is truly the only creative crisis there is.
Mm.
In terms of whether we have a dearth of creativity, no, we are filled with brilliant storytellers. Even the so-called masala or commercial or the so-called formulaic films, it's not easy to do that. And there is a
Mm.
reason why it's successful, because somewhere they're connecting, somewhere they're doing something right, which is just people are responding to that, even if it is just joy or just entertainment at the end of a long hard month.
Mm.
So they are right in their own way. And I am too busy writing and being an introvert to really bother about why or how other people function. I'm just happy functioning the way I function. And I'm fortunate enough to have found a tribe that supports it. So,
Right. Very well said. Very well put. Sonam, what's your opinion on this?
I just feel like it's what you set out to do. Like, what do you want to do with your work? And that dictates the choices you make and what you end up making. So if you want to be successful, then you try to follow a certain path. If you want to make a lot of money, if you want to kind of be whatever, like what is your ultimate goal? Why have you come in this industry? So for me, it's been always to do something that nobody has done. Like, that really gives me, like, that excites me. I want to be like the first one. I want to be like, oh, this girl has done this. Nobody ever did this before. I like that. So
Yeah.
sometimes I succeed. Sometimes, like, you kind of, some things are new, but whatever. But that excites me more than anything else. So if
Mm.
someone calls me and there's some remake, then I'm just like, it's already been made. What am I getting out of it? I want to be the trailblazer in everything I do. So that's my kink. So I will not fall in that category. But now then, because of that, I might have to wait a long time to make things, or get, people tell me, you're dumb, you're stupid, what do you want to make, we don't understand, or whatever. I have to bear that brunt. But ultimately, I'm in here to, like, kind of pave
The way.
paths for other people to follow instead of following a path.
Mm.
So to each their own.
Yes, no, definitely. In fact, also, I think Masaba Masaba and Bulbul, both of those films, in a way, have started a lot of societal conversations in many, many ways. I feel like there's an undue sort of pressure on cinema to sort of inspire a change, and when it's just a visual medium which one sort of watches to be engaged in, and that's pretty much it. But what do you think is the need of the hour if there is to be a visible change in society?
stories, the first thing that a story does is it entertains you. It's like a bedtime story, it's what your grandmother tells you or your mother tells you, or you
Yeah.
get that first fairy tale book or whatever. Those are the first job, is to entertain the child or occupy it. Or then the subliminal task is that it teaches you certain things. These are cautionary tales that teach you stuff, and they tell you how to be, how not to be, what is right, what is wrong, what is brave, what is strong, what is villainy, what is weakness, those kind of things. So the subliminal things come from the storyteller, what the storyteller believes.
Mm.
So I might believe certain things are inherent in me, they course through my veins. So it will slip into the story. It will not be the agenda. We're not here to be flag bearers. Change will happen because stories do change the world, but they
Mm.
do it subliminally. The first agenda is to hook the person in and say, come, let me tell you a story. Aaj pata hai kya hua? It's just that much. Once upon a time. That's all you want to do. That is all that you want to. You want to make that circle around the bonfire bigger and bigger and bigger. That's all you want to do. But because of who you are, because of the change that you inherently want, or subconsciously want, or politically want, whatever, what is inside you is going to slip through your fingers onto the page.
Hmm.
So that kind of changes all that, and it happens slowly. Sometimes, you know, sometimes it sparks one person, it makes one person think again, it makes one person feel moved, or one person laugh. That's also enough. Because
Hmm.
if you think that you're that powerful that you can get on a bloody soapbox and present something and it's going to change the world, how all that you want to do is that one moment will seem authentic
Hmm.
to one person. That's it. If you've
Wow.
done that, you've succeeded. Now, if a collective of stories across the world are doing it, that's when change happens.
Wow. That is, it's just so poetic to hear your responses, Anvita. I'm just in awe of the way you describe. I must say, like, I feel like these are like literally song lyrics, and I'm just like, आपकी मतलब शब्दों में खो गया हूँ, I swear.
Yeah, I feel like Anvita should have a podcast. I just want to listen to it as I lie in my
Exactly
balcony.
my point. Nobody wants to listen to me.
No,
We
everyone,
want to
no,
listen.
we want to. We will listen. I think me and Sonam will definitely listen. That's for sure.
Audience of two.
Yeah. So Sonam, what is your opinion as well on that
I
aspect?
fully agree with Anvita that, like a filmmaker can't help it. Their soul comes in the work. And the same script or the same story, if you tell everybody else to say it, you'll see part of their characters and what they feel is more important than the other things or whatever their choices in the way they tell the story. So that can't be helped. But I don't know. I'm always like kind of like it bothers me when people are like, like what is the message of this or what do you want to say with this. It kind of irritates me a little bit, but actually I'm very careful about what the messaging is of anything I work on. Like it's actually very important to me what the piece is saying, what it will make people feel, because I think that is one of the reasons that I loved movies growing up, is that they made me feel a certain way and they made me think about certain things. They made, the effect it had beyond just the story. That is
Hmm.
why I wanted to become a filmmaker, is to make other people feel like that. Like it's just, so it's a huge part of me, and that's why somehow I end up doing feel good things, because it is in my nature to want to make people feel good. Like I just, it's generally like if I see a sad person or if I see someone low energy or whatever, it is in my nature to add some joy, happiness, or whatever.
Hmm.
So now to do it on a large scale, it's like then it's just just better for me, because I get to do what I'm kind of born to do on a larger scale. And then when you get like a little off some other things like a kafir or whatever, I still try to make it's still making people feel good. It's not in a happy go lucky way, but somehow like self love is very important to me. That is my main, I think, message throughout. Like, I just want people to be empowered, love themselves, stop hating themselves, stop judging themselves, stop being harsh on yourself. That is something which I think I just put inherently in everything I do, whether it's there or not. So वो आ ही जाता है. मैं ऐसे सोचती नहीं हूँ कि अभी मैं I have to now make another thing about self love or whatever. But
Right.
I just want people to feel good about themselves and then feel good. Like,
Yeah.
so it just comes. I think it's just part of your nature.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think both very well answered as well. And I think yes, it is very important as well to brings one individuality towards their work, because obviously at the end of the day that's what people are going to see, and that's what you want people to see as well at the same time. So I think also the fact that lockdown has definitely impacted one's definition of entertainment and content consumption. I feel like my taste in the sort of works that I used to see before lockdown and now has changed a lot significantly. Have you both found the same sort of feeling as well? And how has that sort of change in content consumption impacted your sort of creativity in any way as filmmakers?
I think the things I watched didn't change. I just got a lot of time to watch the things I wanted to watch. So for once, I really watched whatever I wanted to watch. I rewatched a lot of things that I hadn't seen in a long time. Like that was my agenda for the lockdown. For months, I rewatched all the classics. I just watched like any old movie that I could find. I watched, including like the 70s, 80s, really random movies that we grew up on.
Yeah.
Those also. I must say, I really enjoyed watching.
On an aside, Sonam, we have to do that evening again.
Yeah, come on.
Totally.
I'm ready. We used to get together and watch like really random, like Chameli Ki Shadi and
Oh, I love that.
That is a good film.
I've again rewatched these.
Watch 90s films and just
I watched Love again, like with Amir and Juhi, and it was a great soundtrack. It was so good. Like for 3 hours, I was just enjoying myself. So it was like that college of the 90s or whatever. Anyway, so I watched whatever I wanted to watch or used to love watching, and kind of fell in love with movies again. And while making, I have to say that it didn't affect anything in my head. I hope the audiences have changed a little bit. I think I was already kind of doing whatever I wanted to do anyway, so it's not really going to change. But I hope that more people will like what I'm doing now versus other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. That sounds really fun. I wish I could be invited for this watch party. I think it would be so much fun. I don't know what you guys are thinking about some of these films. But Anvita, what about you though? Has your kind of appetite in content changed at all during lockdown?
So I read more than I watch. So that hasn't changed. What I did do was I reread my books, the books that I'd not read for 3-4 years. I read them again. So I read my authors again, whom I love. I read a lot of new authors. So I had a lot of fun doing that. So I read a lot more than I watched. And I was writing. So I write every day. So especially when I'm writing, so this lockdown was that way productive because I finished my draft for the next one, and I wrote first drafts for 2 new ideas. So when I'm writing, I don't consume anything new in any case because it interferes. But what I did do was like Sonam did. I watched all of Rishikesh Mukherjee again. I watched all of Basu Chatterjee again. It's like home. It's safe. It's beautiful. Basically, all of Gulzar Saab's dialogue writing. Just I watched the films that he directed again. So it was comforting to go there because we know that material, know it by heart, know the dialogues by heart. But it's not in any way impacting what I'm writing. So I read more than but that's my normal. I read more than I watch.
Oh, I absolutely resonate with that.
So that impacts my writing because what I read, the kind of stuff that I read impacts my imagination and therefore my writing. But watching I'm a bit of a Philistine. I'm forever being asked, have you seen this? And then I'm blank. And especially, when people talk about, have you seen Tarkovsky? And I know I should. But, I've always been that child. If someone tells me I should do something, chances are I might not.
Yeah. It's the same with me as well, actually. Even like when someone says, did you watch Money Heist? Till date, I have still not seen Money Heist on Netflix. Don't judge me. I still haven't.
Breaking Bad.
Even I have not seen Breaking Bad. Yeah.
I keep thinking I'll see it. And I thought in the lockdown I'll see it because, there is time. But then write and read. And then I'll choose a book over watching any day. So
I feel that as well. Like, how you said for me, like my safe film for me, like my safe sort of films are those directed by Raj Kapoor Saab. So I totally get that. I really, really get that sort of vibe. In fact, I binge watched quite a few of his movies as well during lockdown. But I think on a final note, Anvita and Sonam, because you've already explored some very trailblazing and dynamic works already, what sort of narratives are you keen on exploring next?
I think every time I write something, I'm actually trying to make sense of the world. And I'm trying to, I think I'm trying to change myself a little bit, talking about change, referring to change, or dealing with pain, mine or the collective pain. So it's not anything specific,
Right.
but my stories are all slightly fantastical in nature.
Mm,
Uh, they are all, a little bit of magic realism is there. And in each story, I hope I just move one person. That's all. The way I'm feeling. If something is, um, like like that Nightingale and the Rose story, there is a thorn in my heart,
mm.
and I just want to embrace one person and transfer that thorn into that heart. That's all I want to do.
Wow. And Sonam, what about you? What sort of narratives are you keen on exploring next?
What I'm doing next, or what I really want to do, is not something I'm doing immediately because I want to like let it sit for a bit. But I actually want to make an action film with women. That's what I want to do. So I'm just like just fully like that's all I want to do is have like women like kick major ass on screen.
Yeah.
While they're women and not become like manly and do it.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's what I really want to do. It's my like favorite thing now to dream about. We'll get there.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you say that as well, actually, because I spoke with Shonali actually during the time of Sky's Pink premiere here in UK, and that's what she said. She goes, "Why can't we have a war with two women headlining the film?" I think it's about high time as well. I think it's about high time. I think we need to see it, not even like a Charlie's Angels, but just a pure film, just an action film with women involved in it as well, right?
Not even war, like Die Hard or like whatever. Like I want a proper film, like where
Yeah.
it's just like you just take the men and put the women in. That's it.
The fact that we have such good filmmakers like you both, I think Indian cinema is in very good hands, and I think it's only going to get better from here forward as well. And I just want to once again say a huge thank you, Anvita and Sonam, for joining me on today's chat. I think it was an absolute blast to have you both, and I'm super excited to see what more we can see from you guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye, Anvita.
Bye.